Hi everyone, it's Sharon Lechner with the Canadian Conference Speakers Bureau, and today I'm talking one-on-one with the wonderful Ian Tyson. Hi Ian, how are you?
I'm well, Sharon. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. So tell me, how have things been for you for the last few months with all this COVID craziness?
Well, I mean, I certainly haven't been in front of an audience for a long time, but that doesn't mean that I'm not working. I've been not liking the word pivot that everybody's using, but I've
Yes.
adjusted, and this is now my keynote space that I'm using in my office. I thankfully was already using a stand-up desk, so now I
Oh,
just stand up and speak, and have
oh,
been.
that's
Things
wonderful.
are coming in, and so I'm enjoying it. I'm actually it's a different kind of energy than being in front of an audience, but I've found the thing that gives me the little B12 shot I need to get through. It certainly takes some mental gymnastics and some adjustments as we go through this, but for me, I started reflecting on when you're in front of an audience and you're up there talking, maybe doing an hour or whatever it may be. And there's usually those type A people that are going to be right there with you from the jump. You could be reading the phone book and they're going to be on board, and they're great and they help fuel you. But there's always those moments, I know as a speaker, and after doing this for almost 32 years now, there's that moment when maybe you're midway through and you're making a point or some little, maybe an inspirational piece or a bit of knowledge, whatever. And there's that person that I always will see maybe midway out in the audience who just gives you a nod, like they're getting it, they're picking up what you're laying down. And all I want in that moment as a speaker is to make everybody else go away and tell the rest just to them, because you know that they really want to hear it. And so the realization that I came to, and it may just be a mental trick I'm playing on myself, I don't know, but when I'm looking at this green light on the camera on my computer, I realize I'm telling every person individually, because that's the way they're taking it in. When you're looking at
Absolutely.
something on a screen, it feels like it's just for you. So if I know that's the way I'm curating the thing that I'm putting together, that it's just for the person who's looking at the screen, there's a real intimacy to that. And so
Absolutely.
I've been enjoying it. And yeah, I mean, the work's coming in. I've, really doubled down on a lot of my personal practices and on, staying true to my pillars of myself, and that's given me the strength moving forward and kept me positive and kept me going.
Oh, that's wonderful. And yeah, I agree with you totally that I think the virtual meetings or presentations are definitely an advantage to the attendee in that it does feel much more intimate and personal. Again, I feel a little bit bad for some of the speakers because I think that is a big adjustment,
Oh,
talking
sure.
to a screen. But anyway, so today I wanted to talk to you about one of the concepts that you speak about called great fuel. Can you tell me what great fuel is?
Well, it's a bit of a story, if you don't mind,
Okay,
but yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, this is something that's been rattling around in my brain for years and just has really come out on stage as a concept. I mean, gratitude is something that I've always been really big on, something I like to talk about, and something that's part of my daily practice. I know growing up, gratitude was sometimes a tough thing to come by for me when I was a little younger. I came from a single parent home. My mom passed when I was 10, and she was sick for about 7 years before that. So she was in and out of hospitals. So my brother and my sister and I didn't really have a lot of memories of her at home. We wanted to see her. We saw her in a hospital. Excuse me. And so, yeah, that gratitude was sometimes hard to come by. My dad, he was an entrepreneur. He ran his own business. That meant he had some, long days working and sometimes longer nights in the home office. And I
Right.
mean, he busted his butt trying to put food on the table for us. But the funny thing was, he wasn't necessarily the one putting the food on the table. He, we were literally, 70s, 80s latchkey kids with a piece of string with the key around our necks. And we'd come home, my brother and my sister and I from school. There'd always be a note, the chores we had to do, most of them involved putting things together for our dinner. And so my older brother was usually in charge of, some kind of meat because he was the older one. My younger sister, maybe canned vegetables or frozen vegetables because it was easy because she was
Right.
younger. And me, I was the carbs. I mean, and I'd like to think I'm still the carbs. It's become my life's work, Sharon. But
Love it. Yeah.
more often than not, it was one particular kind of carbs that I was in charge of, and that was instant mashed potatoes. And I don't
Yum.
know if you've ever had the pleasure, but wow,
Oh, yeah.
dehydrated potatoes that look like they've been put through a pencil sharpener, and a little water, a little milk, butter, salt, not really the best thing on the menu, if we're being honest with ourselves. But I loved them, not because of how they tasted, because they were my job. They were my contribution. I mean, I love them so much. I got excited when I got to the point I didn't even have to measure anymore. I could just eyeball it and make it perfectly. I got excited about that. When we went to, I remember us going to family therapy during that time to heal. And in the very first session, the therapist had us go around the room and said, say your name and tell me what you think your role is in the household. And it came to me and I said, I'm Ian. I'm the mashed potatoes. Like it was part of my identity. And,
Wow.
my brother and sister and I, sure, we were siblings, from 12 to 8. And we'd fight in the kitchen. We'd throw elbows. We'd argue. We got at each other. That's what siblings do, especially when you're kids. But
Mm-hmm.
when dad came home and the food went on the table, we may not have been a family that said grace all the time, but we absolutely gave thanks. I mean, we gave thanks for the food that was there feeding us. We gave thanks for each other in spite of the arguing. We gave thanks for the dad who was getting us through. And we gave that thanks in spite of the empty chair at the end of the table. And I got to say, that sense of gratitude that we felt kind of became a cycle. We felt it, we wanted to give it. And it became this cycle, this engine that fueled our healing. Like that the food
I love
fed
that.
our
Yeah.
bodies, the gratitude fed our lives. And that's why a lot of times in this life, it's something that I've come to in the last several years is I don't often say I'm grateful. I say I have great fuel, because
I
that
love
to me
that.
is what gratitude is. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. So if our viewers wanted to practice great fuel, what are 3 tips that you could give them to get into that energy?
Well, I mean, there's so many. I mean, one, it's just the awareness of the feeling is so important. And you get that awareness. One of the practices, I know a fellow speaker friend of mine that he talks about, even for the chemical and mental process in your brain, that feeling gratitude before you go to sleep helps you
Hmm.
sleep and helps your brain to relax. And so I keep a journal beside my bed. I obviously have several journals, but that one is my gratitude journal. And before I go to bed, I just write at the top, I'm grateful for, and then I'll put 5 things down and the why. Even if I don't want to, even if I'm having a bad day, because look, like I said, I've been a motivational speaker for almost 32 years. I have bad days, but I'll
Absolutely.
be
Everyone does.
I'll be grateful for the food that I made. I'll be grateful for, and sometimes it's finding the gratitude in the things that maybe didn't even make you happy that day. Maybe finding the gratitude in the things that upset you that day, trying to find the
Absolutely.
silver lining in that thing. One of the monikers I've taken on that's even, where'd it go? It's on my business card. I recently put this on my new business cards. It says Ian Tyson, speaker, author, facilitator, silver lining prospector, because
Love
I'm
that.
out there
Hmm.
digging for that silver lining every single day.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so finding gratitude that way, it's great. Fantastic way to do it for you. Some people do it when they journal in the morning. That's awesome. But it's the actual expressing of that gratitude to people. I mean, especially now in the pandemic and, our faces are covered. And I know it's one thing you really got to get expressive with your eyes, especially when
Hmm.
you're dealing with people on the front line in stores
Yep.
and retail,
Mhm.
and really, really saying thank you to someone for their help. Like even the grocery store that I'm next door to, where my apartment is, whenever I go in there and they have their person at the door who's counting how many people are coming in for the pandemic, I make sure when I leave to say, thank you for your work. Appreciate you.
Oh, that's great. Yep.
That sense of expressing it out loud is fantastic. And that's kind of leads into the third thing. There's another practice that I have that I've done for about 5 years now, that I picked up from a speaker friend of mine from the States, where he he calls it kind of his prayer to the universe. I sort of call it like speaking your intention out loud. And so every morning, as I'm doing I have several practices every day that help get me up and get me going, get me in the right headspace. One of them is making my bed first thing in the morning. So I've checked one thing off the list as soon as I'm rolling. While I'm doing it, I say my intention out loud. And it can be anything for anybody. I've curated this thing and written this thing myself over the years. It's changed, it's evolved, it's very organic. But There's a lot of stuff about what I intend to do, how I intend to see things positively. And one of the lines in there is, I will carry a heart full of gratitude. And
Love that.
saying that out loud and like ending the whole thing with, because today's going to be a great day. It changes your intention. It's like, it's confirmation bias. You tell yourself that your brain subconsciously wants to prove you right.
Yep.
You go out
Totally
and
agree.
look for it. It's like
Yep.
the algorithm on Netflix. Like, it gives you more of what you've watched. So if you go in feeling gratitude and feeling positive, you're subconsciously going to try and give yourself more of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The subconscious is so powerful, and totally agree. Like you're going to attract more of what you're putting out there. That's wonderful. Those are three fabulous tips, Ian. I really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much, and I hope you stay well. We've been chatting with Ian Tyson today. If you're interested in learning more about Ian or booking him for your next virtual event, please contact us at CanadianConferenceSpeakersBureau.com. Thanks for watching. Take care.